Они, наверное, уже слышат сами. Excuse us for the technical delay. There are many participants from different countries. Today, 50 members of the assembly take part here, and about 100 people invited from 10 regions of our country. And the Arctic countries, Arctic Council countries. Allow us to open the work of the Arctic Council in the Sakha, Yakutia. The work assembly is participated by deputies of the State Duma, Council of Federation, representatives of the Arctic International Council of Norway, Canada, USA, the different districts of the country, leaders of communes, representatives, executive bodies of all levels of Yakutia. On behalf of Assembly, I thank the working committee for your active participation. I hope for further fruitful work for the development of our multinational country and for the friendship ties with the Arctic Council of the Arctic countries. The word goes to for greeting to Zhirkov Alexander Nikolaevich, the first Deputy of State Assembly, Sakha Republic, Yakutia. Hello, our close and far neighbors. Today we have unusual meeting that, despite the unusual format, is quite modern. We have to discuss. We greet all participants of today's session of the Assembly, and we want to say that the Sakha Republic Yakutia is one of the leading districts in Russian Federation that has deep developed complex of documents covering the problems of the small numbered peoples of the north. About the life in the Arctic, we Yakuts are the northern people, and for us the issue of the Arctic, a man in the Arctic, the issue of small numbered peoples of the north, the attitude to them is not just some vague topic. This is a concrete subject. This is a component of life activity of the whole population of our Northern Republic. And that's why the legislation in the north, we don't separate the circle of problems from us that we have to decide. In the future, the strategic issues and in our life, contemporary life, from all the documents that were accepted in our legislation at the Arctic theme, I want to define ecological doctrine. It was taken in our republic and was presented in very different Russian and international sites. And for today, we strive for all normative and legislative documents being developed and issued in our republic, for them to have a basis, the ecological component. It becomes a requirement. We strive for this becoming a requirement for legislative and executive authorities, and for it to become aware issue, well-aware issue for all Northerners. We promote this topic in all Russia, in all districts of Russia. And this initiative we propose to the international community for us to have one united ecological doctrine as a rule, requirement of behavior of a person in harsh Arctic conditions. On behalf of Yakutia Parliament, I wish you fruitful work of our assembly. There are many problems, and you have many problems. Only joint steps and strive can bring us good result. I wish you good luck. Thank you. Dear participants, let's turn on to the presentations, and the word goes to the chairman of the assembly, Elena Golomaryova, please.
So, in order to preserve the ecosystem in the Arctic, with global competition, and in order to have to make conditions for those who live in the Arctic area, it has become a very challenging issue. So hunter who goes out to the Arctic and hunts for food, it's a very deep philosophy that that lies as a base of life, and it is one of the priorities for not only the northern people but also for the humanity as a whole. And we need to speak about on very high levels of our world, and the state policy of the Russian Federation. So the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, issued the document that was issued until 2035. So it covers the development of this zone of the Arctic regions, and its rational usage of all the lands adjacent to the Arctic regions. And so we need to preserve the Arctic, and it's the territory for the whole world, and it is we need to also speak about the environmental issues, and we need to speak about the traditional way of life of the indigenous peoples on the territory who resides on the territory of the Arctic. And also we need to know that we have to think about the quality of life, and what we have done so far. We have worked on every level of the federal, and we worked on including 13 regions of the Arctic regions into the Arctic zone, and so that they are adjacent to the sea route of our country. And since we have 8 more regions that can be included into the Arctic zone, and they have already been included, and we have and these steps are made on the federal level, and there is a state program that is called Social Economical Development of the Russian Federation till 2025, and in March 2020 there had been some changes made into this program, and it is about the Arctic zone of the Russian Federation. And right now the Russian Federation state is considering some very important documents, and so on the 7th of May there was a project that was issued, and it is about the state safety document, and it is all about the state document, state safety, and the strategy is developed until 2035, and the Ministry of Western Development, Eastern Development had worked out the development program, and the program was worked out together with the scientists and the other regions of the Arctic regions of Russia, and according to the initiative of the Parliament, the government of the Sakha Yakutia have developed a program, a very brand new program about the social economic development of the Arctic, and it is about the about the investments to the Arctic. There is another project that is called the Children of the Arctic, and we work on developing 15 notebooks, school books about the languages of the indigenous peoples, and we work on the holidays of school children of the from the Arctic region. So right now, the Parliament had worked on the changes to the law about the indigenous peoples of the Arctic regions of the Russian Federation, and today we saw that the list of that was signed by the chairman of the government of this Russian Federation by Mikhail Mishustin, and we need to in this project. In the project of this law, we saw the work of so the changes that was made by the deputies of the Sakha Republic, and especially by Danchikova. So we don't want to have people who don't lead the nomadic way of life in this law, so they are not included in the list of those people. So in addition to that, the State Duma on 7th of July, there was one of the laws was passed about the so we have started working on this project of the law, and the Yakutia has issued a lot of suggestions about this law, and under the leadership of Alexander Ryzhkov and Galina Danchikova, we actively took part in this work, and so there were more than 6 sessions about the changes to this particular law that was made by the Parliament of the Sakha Republic, and most of the suggestions were considered, and some of them were included as a base, and
земель и принудительном отчуждении земельных участков, изъятии земельных участков для государственных нужд в целях размещения объектов инфраструктуры арктической зоны.
We protected the interests of the Republic towards the managing companies, towards agreements between federal and managing agencies, the executive bodies of Republic. You watch the possibility of transfer the functions to the subsoil society, with more than 50% of shares belong to the country, and the district that owns these shares. Managing a company can become the one who owns more than 50% of shares. The second, we took the Article 7 about the public council in the Arctic zone, about representatives of public organizations. This is the key mechanism Our representatives will take part in taking control over the subsoil users who will come to the Arctic, and will take into account the interests of small numbered peoples. The third point, the authorities of the Republic reduced the entrepreneurs requirements who wants to work in the Arctic. The capital was reduced as a resident of Arctic zone to 1 million rubles. Here we took into account the issues about taxes and the reimbursement of taxes to pay to state non-budgetary funds. Also, regions of the Arctic zone, we took into account the State Assembly proposal and other associations under the support of plenipotentiary to Russian President Yuri Trutnev on separate measures, on certain measures of state support in traditional economies of the small numbered peoples of the north in the Arctic zone. First, this is about the right of these peoples living in the Arctic zone to themselves or together with the residents act as the resident, as the independent residents, as an individual person or juridical person, and you can become resident of the Arctic zone. It is very important to note that according to the law, there must be a program of state support of traditional economies of the small numbered peoples of the north in Russia. And here, Ministry of the Far East, agency to develop human capital, together with the representatives of small numbered peoples of the Russian districts, included into the Arctic zone, have developed the program together that has never been before. And we hope that this document will be very close and clear. This program is developed by regional and federal organs. Also, it is noted that this state program has to include infrastructure of traditional economies, promotion of local goods in the inner market, development of touristic industry, preparation of stuff for traditional economies, modernization of objects of traditional economies, and popularization of entrepreneurship between the indigenous peoples. The Ministry of Development of the Arctic is developing the program of concrete measures of support on 13 business activities fixed in the federal law. Out of 13, 5 directions worked well. We think that the most breaking document that we have prepared for today for discussion, we all should come and see this unique document that is called the Standard of Responsibility of Subsoil Users and Cooperation with the indigenous peoples of the North. Standard of Responsibility is a list of principles recommended for use by residents of the Arctic zone while organizing their cooperation. We hope that this document for us will relieve many issues occurring at the sites. On this point, I think I will finish my speech. We will post the report on IL2Men's website. We thank government of our republic, the heads of the republic who have always cared the problems that were sounded from the leaders of communes, to Vyacheslav Shturov, Igor Borisov, Aysen Nikolaev. All these heads paid attention to these issues. They have made many in legislation of the parliament towards the indigenous peoples of the north, and many issues are being decided very humanly, sustainably. And so I finish my report, and I thank you all, to our senators, to Alexander Nikolaevich, Igor Afanasievich, and Galina Innokentyevna Danchikova. Without your help, we couldn't have decided such issues at the federal level. Thank you. The word goes to Akimov Alexander Konstantinovich, Deputy Chair of the Committee on Federative Framework, Regional Politics, Local Administration, and the Northern Affairs.
Thank you very much. I hope you hear me. Good afternoon, dear participants of this forum, dear members of the Assembly, the deputies, representatives of the indigenous peoples of the Sakha Republic, dear Alexander Nikolaevich, Viktor Nikolaevich, dear friends, compatriots, dear guests, and I would like to greet you on behalf of the our the Council of the Arctic and Antarctic, and would like to congratulate with this event, the forum, and wish this successful work. And the theme of this work is very interesting. It is about sustainable development in the Arctic and the peoples who live in the Arctic zone. I would like to say that Valentina Ivanovna Matviyenko, the chair of the Council of the Federation, and the senators who work in the Council of the Arctic today, they greet you, and they take part and they hear this forum, and they take part in the work of this Northern Forum. And you probably know very well, since since 2021, Russia will be a chair in the Arctic Council. And related to that, I would like to say that the Council of the Federation is actively working on social economic development, not only the Arctic and the Far East and Siberia, but also is working on affairs of the indigenous peoples of the northern parts of Russia, and it is one of the main directions we work. And today we work on this affairs, and I'm not going to tell about in detail, but I would like to mention about the document that the main documents have been adopted, and Elena Gamalamaryova has already mentioned about those laws. And we worked in this very actively on the documents that are very strategically worked out, and these documents have been adopted, and these documents have been they are the basis of the politics of the state, and it is about the development until 2035, and we have worked all the aims and every part of which so we are talking here about the infrastructure of the road infrastructure, as well as the sewer infrastructure, and of course we need to work on this direction. Today we are working on the strategies about the development of the Arctic zones, and we have already discussed in Yakutsk during our session in Yakutsk, and here as well, and the members of this discussion have came up with some suggestions, and it is about the geopolitical changes, about the environmental issues, and Russia is one of the most which has the biggest territory in the Arctic zone, and we are very interested in this very much. I would also like to say that we are working on the program of social economic development of the Arctic zone until 2025, and but this program, as you probably know, it didn't really work until 2020 without funds. Funding, and the program needed more funding. So today we are working on a totally different program, and the territories have already been established. The territories have been established. So there are 13 regions of in Sakha Republic, and these questions that are in these documents we will realize and implement, and the specialists are working quite actively, and they are and we have already considered the development of the health affairs, especially pertaining the COVID theme, and we were working and thinking about the schools, and also we were working on the development of education. And you know that there are so-called nomadic schools, and in our last session we have considered the small aviation development in the Arctic regions, and it is a very serious issue, and the Ministry of Industries and the Ministry of Transport of the Russian Federation are working on this quite closely, and this is the works is being held on the tariffs and this small aviation issues. So there are working groups on the affairs of the indigenous peoples of the Russian Federation, and I am a head of that working group, and so we are working on the territories of the traditional territorial usage, and we do get a lot of questions and a lot of problems, and of course we need to change legislative norms, and we have a federal agency that helps to work in this direction, and the Ministry of the Arctic and Affairs, the Arctic Affairs, works actively on this as well. So dear colleagues, dear friends, the federal structures are very interested and very actively working on the laws and about the laws on the small businesses, and we need to work on locally, and we monitor quite closely all the issues, and we will discuss everything. The Republic of Sakha Yakutia is one of the most has a lot of initiatives, and the Republic always suggests and comes up with ideas, and that's why we have a lot of work on, and of course we work on that. So I would like to congratulate with all of you, especially the citizens of the Republic, on the day of Yakutia, of the Republic of Yakutia, and we hold some events, and it was about, and we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the Indigenous Peoples Association organization, and tomorrow I'm going to give a report, and I will share my ideas and ideas about the development of the Arctic and Antarctic. All the success. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Alexander Konstantinovich.
The word goes to our friends who are from the USA. John Underhouse is a researcher. Привет из Соединенных Штатов. Спасибо за то, что дали мне слово. Добрый вечер. Развитие Арктики для народов Арктики, для народов Якутии, которые там проживают. И во всем мире, я думаю, что мы должны найти способ работать вместе. Почему нету?
Opportunities for our people.
Ой. А там перевод есть? Я говорю. Мы не должны ждать, пока кто-то нам даст разрешение на совместную работу. Я думаю, что есть много способов нашей совместной работы. За последние 50 лет я путешествовал в республике Саха-Якутия и близлежащие другие районы, и также другие страны в Арктике и в Аляске. Я могу сказать, что мы не так уж сильно отличаемся, мы все просто люди. Неважно, из какой мы страны, перед нами стоят одинаковые проблемы. И мы все питаем одинаковые надежды на наше будущее. Для нашей молодежи, для старшего поколения, для всех слоев населения. Для меня большая честь быть сегодня здесь с вами этим вечером. Я желаю вам всех успехов и хорошей работы. Спасибо.
So it was very, we were very pleased to hear from you, and we will work together. So we are giving the floor to... Я не поняла, что вы говорите?
Анне Отке. Дали саму.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Здравствуйте.
Ну, сейчас нормально? Я говорю, меня будет слышно на русском? Ой, извините. Спасибо большое. Мне очень приятно, что меня пригласили поделиться некоторыми размышлениями.
Как у вас было еще раз? Как вы сидели? Вот
Я хочу выразить свою благодарность. Я хочу поделиться некоторыми размышлениями. Меня зовут Даро. Я из северо-запада Аляски. Я из Совета Инуитского циркумполярного совета. Это международный орган, который представляет инуитов Аляски, Канады и Гренландии. Около 150 инуитов живут на традиционной территории. Мы работаем с середины прошлого века, с конца прошлого века. В 1977 в Аляске у нас была встреча. Мы работаем над тем, чтобы объединить наших людей и также показать всем, что мы работаем над всеми проблемами, которые есть в Арктике. Наша традиционная родина представлена только около 40% арктической зоны. И одна из наших главных инициатив — это развитие арктической политики, чтобы установить принципы когезии и координации работы в отношении нашей традиционных мест. За все это время мы работали над различными вопросами. Мы сфокусировали наше внимание на ООН. И с 1997 2007, с тех пор, как был организован Арктический совет, мы работали над деятельностью Арктического совета. Недавно, в июле 2018 у нас была Генеральная ассамблея в Аляске. В этой Генеральной ассамблее все делегаты
Homelands adopted what is referred to as the Ecological Declaration, and it touches upon international indigenous human rights and international partnerships, as well as food security and the importance of food security to our people as active hunters, fishers, and harvesters. We also focused upon families and youth and the issues facing our families and youth. In this current pandemic, and prior to the pandemic, we have had a concern about health and wellness throughout our communities, and so that's included in our declaration. Also, education and language. Many of you may be aware that the United Nations declared 2019 as the International Year of Indigenous Languages, and the ICC, our organization, was very active in the International Year of Indigenous Languages in 2019. We're also intending to be active in the International Decade of Indigenous Languages, which will begin 2022 to 2032. Some of you may know that the United Nations General Assembly declared the International Decade for Indigenous Languages, and it's my hope that not only the Inuit Circumpolar Council, but also you and your people will become engaged in the International Decade for Indigenous Languages. We've also focused on Indigenous knowledge, as well as sustainable wildlife management. I've heard several speakers already reference the importance of the Arctic environment and the distinct nature of the Arctic environment. And so we have also referenced that in the Ecological Declaration. Sustainable development, which I understand is the theme of your conference, was also included in our declaration. And just very quickly, I can tell you that in terms of our work at the United Nations, we have focused on activities within the United Nations Environment Program. As many of you know and have felt very acutely, the impacts of climate change. We are very much engaged in the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and in particular, the constitutive body that was created to ensure that Indigenous peoples participate in the debates and negotiation related to the Paris Agreement and the Climate Change Convention. I've already mentioned that we're active at UNESCO because of the International Year of Indigenous Languages and now the International Decade. More recently, in terms of news, we are seeking observer status within the International Maritime Organization. We've applied to the IMO to become an observer non-governmental organization. And because the marine environment, the Arctic marine environment, is so important to us and our food security and our way of life, we've decided that we should become active in the International Maritime Organization, which is responsible for the implementation of the Polar Code, which has much to do with safeguarding the Arctic marine environment, especially because of the ongoing efforts and focus by shipping states like Singapore, China, and others We are very concerned that we need to be engaged in the IMO and vigilant about protecting our particular interests within the IMO. We've also become very active with the Food and Agricultural Organization, which has more recently begun to focus on Arctic indigenous peoples. And because of the FAO's work, and I appreciate the fact that Slava in particular invited me to this gathering, but this was the most recent opportunity that I had a chance to meet with him as well as other indigenous peoples from the Arctic regions of the Russian Federation. And of course, our interest in food security, but fisheries in particular was the main focus of that gathering. I also just quickly want to mention that we
Doro, sorry,
are
it's
active.
time. What's
Okay.
needed more? Not?
Give me just two minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. I just also wanted to say, as far as the Arctic Council is concerned, we're active in many of its working groups, but we are also active in the Arctic Economic Council. So just a couple words about sustainable development. I think that from my point of view as a person involved in human rights, that maintaining your distinct identity and that of indigenous peoples is really very, very important to anything going forward as far as sustainable development. I think that the recognition of your distinct human rights is important, and that a central element of this is safeguarding your lands, territories, and your resources, and that the management and control of lands, territories, and resources are really at the heart of the ability to maintain your distinct identity and to thrive and to create opportunities for sustainable development. And finally, I'd just like to say I appreciate the opportunity to share some words with you about the Inuit Circumpolar Council and all of our work, and I look forward to hearing about the outcomes of your conference and potentially future collaboration and cooperation with all of you. So, thank you.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. We are hoping to collaborate with you in the future, and we will have projects together. The floor is given to our dear Anna Otke, the member of the Committee on International Affairs, and she is from Chukotka. Dear colleagues, dear participants of the participants of the assembly and the assembly of the Iltumen of the Republic of Sakha, and the participants of the forum on sustainable development. These new challenges of this time, they dictate new approaches. So the climate change and subsoil usage, pandemic and others, they bring changes, and not only good changes, but also they contain some challenges to the safety, and we need to strive to make a comfortable life for the northern people. And we, of course, we it is one of the most keen and priority for the state and the Ministry of the Development of the Far East and the Arctic is working on this. And of course, we are looking towards the economical development and the development of the indigenous peoples. There are working groups that are working on the legislative norms, and thanks to our colleagues, to the deputies from the legislative works, and we are looking forward to work with as many people as possible to make the life of the Northerners better. So we know that the parliamentaries of Yakutia are very hardworking people, and we admire them very much. And it is all about the retirement fund. It is about the health care and the rights of the indigenous peoples, and especially we admire the ecological expertise. So Mr. Akimov has told about the working group on the legislative changes on the rights of the indigenous peoples, and now we are working on the legislative acts that are on the rights on the land, and we are open to new ideas about the rights on hunting rights. And dear friends, of course, it is a unique possibility to get together as many people as possible who are very interested in the development of the northern parts of our country, but not also. And of course, if we speak about Chukotka, we wish you in your houses that you have fire of life, fire of understanding, and fire of mutual supporting. Thank you very much. You are for us, you are a very reliable partner, and every our initiative is very. You are very interested in all our initiatives, and we are very proud of you. And we are very grateful for your work, and we hope that you will work together in the future. So the floor is given to Tatiana Gogoleva, and. He's a membership.
Good evening, dear colleagues. I want to thank, first of all, Elena Golomaryova for the invitation to take part in this discussion. Today, September 28, is the International Day of Availability to Information. In here, Golomaryova gathered us all from 10 districts of the country and other countries, and we exchanged data and our experience to provide sustainable development. But first of all, I want to greet participants of the Assembly and deputies of Sakha Yakutia. This meeting of people who were responsible and worked fairly of all people in the Arctic. Well, the signal is very bad. It's quite difficult to hear. As Anna said, the economic success of business must have our ancient activities must have success. Taking responsibility, you received the fair support of people who gave your voices to you, and you served to people. In Khanty-Mansiysk Assembly of Council, in our regional parliament, we took a share the 13 laws to protect the rights of indigenous peoples, and having taken these laws, we held lectures and about issues of the indigenous peoples of our district. At the current moment, the State Duma is working at developing the laws on ethnological expertise, and we work with this with FAR executive bodies and also with the Iltumen. In late November, we plan to obtain some documents that are being developed yet. Yakutia leaders know about it. I want to wish the further development of legislation aimed at protection of ecology. I want to wish the strengthening of positions of the native languages and all the actions of international level, like international decade of languages of indigenous peoples. I think we will be well prepared to them, and we will strengthen each other with the elaborated experience on sustainable use of our peoples. Thank you, dear Tatiana Stepanovna. We see the most patriotic deputy of State Assembly of Russian Federation. First, we get to entrust to you and come and say, we have come, and you always meet us and fold us. And for these years of cooperative work, we have developed many initiatives about register about communes of subsoil use areas. I wish you health and we'll work on the wellness of our country. The word goes to Karina Keservan, attorney on the rights of indigenous peoples, Canada. We present reports of other participants because it's night. Okay, please, Kalina Keservan.
Inviting me. I'm honored to be able to take part in such an important meeting. One thing that appears clear from everything that has been said so far is that around the world we are facing many common challenges, and together we can find common solution. And Indigenous peoples have a unique perspective, and their voices are important to solve global issues, such as an issue faced by children and youth, the aging population, climate change, the fight against poverty, gender equality, migration, water protection, and even emerging technologies. Regarding economic development, Indigenous peoples of the Arctic across the planet have been resilient, creative, and determined to improve life quality of their communities. In terms of sustainable development, Indigenous peoples across the Arctic have so much to contribute with the traditional knowledge of the land. Traditional knowledge, traditional activities, and economic development must coexist, so Indigenous identities and lifestyle, which are unique and valuable, can be preserved. One of the important issues that I see in the Arctic is the availability of high-speed internet, which will allow Indigenous youth to access online education, allow Indigenous entrepreneurs to connect with the rest of the world, and allow Indigenous organizations to share best practices with one another. Cooperation among Indigenous partners, but also between Indigenous and non-Indigenous populations, organizations, and businesses will certainly contribute to improve the quality of life and developing traditional industries of the Indigenous peoples of the North. I look forward to continue to be able to be part of this conversation, and please do not hesitate if you would like to establish some connections with the Indigenous peoples here in Canada working on these issues. Thank you.
Спасибо, Карина. Вы вчера
Thank you, Karina. Yesterday at the roundtable Children of Arctic, your presentation was very interesting. Your ideas and your proposals are very interesting to us. So we hope for the further cooperation. And we will work with you for sure and work for the projects that will join the Council, Arctic States Council. Thank you. The word goes to Tero Mustonyan, Chairman of the International Cooperative Snow Change, Finland.
Dear participants of this important session, we are very happy and proud to be contributing to this important event, and even yesterday we were able to exchange on questions of ecology of the Arctic area. Snow Change, which is the pan-Arctic organization that I lead, has been working in Yakutia for 15 years. I'm very happy and honored to contribute, therefore, to the continuation of our work. I'm also bringing greetings to you from the IPCC, which is the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. I'm currently serving as one of the lead authors for the IPCC 6th assessment, and my role is also to include voices and science, as well as Indigenous knowledge from the Arctic. And all of us know that the Sakha Yakutian Arctic territories will be extremely important in this conversation due to the fact that we have both climate change events, such as the tundra and forest fires this year, as well as the great geopolitical and Indigenous focus that is part of the region. What have we found out over the past 20 years, 15 years that we have been working as an organization can be summarized in much what the previous colleagues have been saying, that often this is the case that indigenous peoples and communities are on the forefront of trying to document and understand change. There are no scientific measurement possibilities in remote communities, and therefore inclusion of indigenous knowledge in all aspects of life is extremely critical. Secondly, now that the Arctic is undergoing tremendous change, and the Boreal as well, we have to be finding new mechanisms. How do we respond and orderly navigate this so-called new normal? Snow Change has come up with a new way of trying to lead a community-based ecological restoration of rivers, lakes, and ecosystems in Finland. So we have successfully combined indigenous knowledge and traditional knowledge with science to come together to try to support and restore, ecologically restore those habitats that have been altered or destroyed by previous land use. And while there are many parts of the Sakha Yakutia North and the whole Republic where we can't address everything, there's much to be done, for example, in southern Yakutia on the questions of what can we do on Evenki knowledge and science in river restoration or protection and preservation of key habitats. One of the steps towards that is the new Evenki Atlas that we have launched earlier this year, both in Russian and English, to document, capture, and convey important Evenki voices regarding how change is underway. So in conclusion, we are very thankful for this opportunity to participate in the forum. We greet our long-term friends and allies like ICC with Daley and John Waterhouse and all of the indigenous and social leaders present in this call. And we are renewing our commitment for the next 15 to 20 years of working Sakha Yakutia. We will continue a range of snow change activities, including scientific and indigenous knowledge monitoring of climate change. And we will try to work together with Russian Academy of Sciences and other institutions on questions of nomadic school, cultural heritage. And let me conclude by saying that one of the actions that we are hoping to advance over the next few years is the inclusion of Halartsa Tundra into the UNESCO World Heritage Network. We do believe that this unique part of the high Arctic in Yakutia with the Yugakiri and Chukchi and Even peoples constitutes a world-class region where international cooperation on sustainability of the Arctic can be fulfilled. Thank you very much. Спасибо большое.
Спасибо, Тера.
Thank you, Tara. We are glad that you are discussing today with us the issues, and we hope together with Shadri and Vyacheslav and the Parliament of our Republic to develop some projects that will be useful for all of us. Thank you very much. The word goes to respected by all of us and our favorite, so to say, leader of indigenous peoples of the Russian Federation, Association of Indigenous Peoples, that marks its 30 years today since the creation. Respected Aipin Irimi, Chair of the Assembly of Indigenous Peoples of the North of Khanty-Mansiysk, Autonomous Okrug Yugri. Please, Irimi Danilovich. Good evening, dear colleagues. Thank you, Elena Christoforovna. How much seconds do I have, please? 5 minutes. I want to say a few theses on our topic. First of all, thank you for your invitation on such a big forum. I am very glad to take part in its work. I want to say a few theses. First of all, I congratulate you all on the 30 years of the Association of Indigenous Peoples of Siberia and Far East that I once chaired. And since that, I want to remind you a few things. That 30 years ago, there was the first session of the Indigenous peoples of the Far East in Kremlin on March 31. And due to this, the first session, if you remember elder generation, it took place with the participation of USSR President Mikhail Gorbachev. There was also Nikolai Ryzhkov. It was a very big forum too. We started to create association then. We reached that thanks to the representatives and deputies of the last parliament of USSR. The personal and constructive cooperation helped us. And later, we worked fruitfully with the Russian President, Boris Yeltsin. All our initiatives and projects started when we sounded them to the first leaders of the state. Why do I say it all? At present, our deputies, first of all, the State Duma, the Federation Council, have possibility of personal straight direct contact with the executive bodies at the federal level and with our president, leader of nations, Vladimir Putin. All our problems are being started to be solved when we voice them to the president or leader of the country. As for me, the subject of the session is very good. A man in the Arctic, quality of life, preservation of environment. I think the solution, there are many issues. I will not voice all of them. Tatiana Golova has said, we will gather a big experience on creation of legal space of indigenous peoples in Khanty-Mansiyski okrug, on the economics of these issues. We have a big experience on these issues. Who all the involved know these things. And one very acute issue is to reach such a condition and level so that we can provide the indigenous peoples with, to let them solve economic problems themselves, as well as work issues, employment issues in the north of Russia. It is the most acute problem in the north. If we provide people with jobs, job places, with the preservation of the environment, with the preservation of their traditional economics, These issues must be entered into the general pattern of Russian economics development. This has many mechanisms, many projects and programs. The most important thing is I want to emphasize that it depends on us, on our activity, because creation of communes, national enterprises, of the funds, it is the insufficient in the legal and the financial fields. It can be better, but nevertheless, a person and labor, a person and environment, this is important, and all the other things can be applied. If we preserve the traditional economics, we will preserve all the other things. Everything depends on this issue, on preservation of environment. We have to preserve a man in this environment, in taiga, in Arctica, in tundra, and everything will be applied. Thank you for the attention. I want to thank once again Elena Christoforovna for your active work. I remember today all my colleagues who contributed a lot in their times to preserve our cultural traditions and cultural heritage, economics, the North, our common house, the Arctic, the Far East. Thank you.
Видеть вас.
We're very happy to see you today and to hear you today. And Yeremy Danilovich, thank you for organizing an institute that is called the Institute of Assembly of the Deputies of the Indigenous Peoples. And when we were establishing the assembly, we actually followed your experience, and we came to conclusion that it is a very interesting affair, and there are more than 130 deputies that are currently working actively in the assembly, and we see the results of our work. And it is about the exact things that you were talking about today, and the deputies have become really active, and they are very keen to work on the local level as well as about the legislative level. Thank you very much. We wish you good health, and we hope to see you in the future. So the floor is given to the representatives of the indigenous peoples of Sakhalin, Alexei Limanzo. Good afternoon, dear participants of the Assembly of the Deputies, the representatives of the indigenous peoples under the Iltamen in the Republic of Sakha Yakutia, and I would like to convey our greetings on behalf of the government of the Sakhalinskaya Oblast, and we wish you fruitful work. So if we speak about the Sakhalinskaya Oblast and Sakhalinskaya Duma, we have traditionally worked closely on the rights of the indigenous peoples together with the State Assembly of the Republic of Sakha Yakutia, and this cooperation is oriented to protect the interests of the indigenous peoples who reside in our regions and today who are facing the challenges of preserving their cultures and traditions as well as the social economical development. And of course here we also pay attention to this kind of issues and affairs, and we have passed regional laws and on preserving native languages, and as well as laws about the industries and traditional industries as well. And one of the important laws is about the interest of the indigenous peoples of our region, so that they are actually put in on the law, and it is so there are more. So there is Institute of the Representatives of the Indigenous Peoples in Sakhalin, and they have been working for more than 20 years, and they are working on the safeguarding the rights of the indigenous peoples. And of course, it is basically about the relationships between the indigenous peoples and the industries and subsoil industries. And we always see into the positive experience that we have in the regions, and in this case, the Assembly of Deputies of the indigenous peoples of the Sakha Republic and the legislative organ of the Sakha Republic are closely looking into these affairs, and we are very happy to work with and the members of the Assembly. I would like once again to greet you and thanks, and we will closely follow your work, and we wish you success and health. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alexei. The floor is given to Alexander Navyokhov, the deputy from Khanty-Mansiysk. He is a representative of the indigenous peoples and the member of the committee of the regional on the subsoil. So, we need to work on the timing, because we need to follow the timing.
I will try to stick to my timing. I want to thank for your invitation to take part in this session. It will let us define the regional approaches. We hope that we'll cover the most difficult issues. The subject I want to tell you today is the innovation experience in implementing the projects. In 2018, in a remote territory of Blayarsky region, in Natural Reserve Park, we took decision to develop a satellite internet that was launched in 2018. I want to note that we took this project very responsibly, with all responsibility. We received many applications for the installation of this complex. I want to note that this project was presented in Khanty-Mansiysk region. In the State Duma space, we presented our experience at Arctic Council. This project took place in Khanty-Mansiysk for the first time. the basic goal we followed is to eliminate the informational uh, inadequateness, to make people more aware. The social direction of the project let us understand the needs of people who live in remote areas. And together with the state support, with its help, we connected 9 pastures of indigenous peoples to the internet. It was about 1,400 people in municipalities. And moreover, we did a bit more in the framework of the cooperation with subsoil users. We simplified the obtaining of such equipment by strengthening the satellite signal for mobile network. Today we have acquired the equipment that helps via mobile computers to get social services, to get into social network. We launched a number of mobile applications that are adapted to the indigenous peoples and to their languages. I want to note that to exclude the order of obtaining the state services, we made so-called windows for consultations with the lawyers. Today we are developing the issue of medical services obtained by our population. For today, during this pandemic, this is the most important systems of cooperation with the indigenous peoples who lead a traditional way of life. The life itself showed that the possibility of communications that can systematically integrate the indigenous peoples into modern community. And today they are actively integrated into the life of Russian society. In 2020, we installed 17 points of internet. About 4,000 people will be connected, including the indigenous peoples living in remote areas of our republic. In Wednesday, we'll have a new model, a nomadic school and kindergarten. We'll launch an educational program that will work under our project IT Pastures. The practices we have found during the last 2 years we plan to go to Sakhalin to be guest at Limanzo. We'll see and value the possibilities that will be launched in reindeer system herders sites. Thank you all. Thank you, Alexander Vячеславович. It is nice to see my colleague and hear about the work results that you started about 5 years ago. And now you have already done this, you have results. It is very nice for me to hear it. This is the subject of our session, the improvement of life quality exactly. And our republic plans to do this task. Today, we see that many regions know each other well, and you are forward to us, and we congratulate you. And as a Sakhalin person, we invite you to decide these issues on site. We should work on it, because without connection, we and the youth, we cannot get used to the tundra without communications. So you've decided a very good task. Now we get connected to
Ректор, член Саамского парламента. Мы следим за работой Саамского парламента, много полезного для себя работы взяли. И очень приятно, что с нами сегодня Гунбрит Ректор, член Саамского парламента. Пожалуйста.
Thank you.
Я услышала, к сожалению, слышала только на русском канала Deputies. Спасибо большое за возможность поговорить с вами. Это очень важно, и это очень интересная тема, которую вы обсуждаете сейчас. Я немножко опоздала, но все то, что я услышала, это просто невероятно. Я Самского, значит, глава Самского совета, который является частью Арктического совета, и я послушала презентации, которые были представлены, и это про то, как мы должны защитить нашу природу и каким образом увеличить, значит, наши... I am so sorry. I don't know how to do this. Опять не то идет.
Yeah, I think preservation of environment and improvement of life quality is very closely linked. And Arctic Council, as many of you are already familiar with, recognized the importance of traditional knowledge or indigenous people's knowledge already in their foundation document. Is everything okay? Can the interpreters hear me? Yes, I assume so. And the mandate of Arctic Council is sustainable development and protection of Arctic environment. And they recognize that well-being of indigenous peoples and indigenous knowledge is central to environmental protection and sustainable development. So Arctic Council turns 25 next year. And over this year, we have in various degrees succeeded or not succeeded in addressing exactly those traditional knowledge aspects. So we are still struggling in getting the indigenous or traditional knowledge well used or to utilize it to its best in the Arctic Council. So that's why the projects that we heard about here is very important, in particular now in the light of that the chairmanship of Arctic Council will turn to the Russian Federation from next spring and 2 years onwards. So I think there is a great potential of the projects that you have referred to here, and the will in addressing this also through Arctic Council in the coming chairmanship. The other thing I wanted to briefly mention is 2020 was supposed to be the year of nature biodiversity and nature protection, and the UN Convention on Biological Diversity is developing a new strategy for biodiversity or nature richness, if we can put it that way. and they are developing a global biodiversity framework. And what is unique also with the Convention on Biological Diversity, it actually recognizes that the most nature-rich areas in the world are oftentimes those areas where indigenous peoples are living and using and managing. So indigenous use or indigenous cultures in itself is a good tool for nature conservation or preservation or preservation of environment. And Sami Council, who is engaged in this work in the Convention on Biological Diversity and Arctic Council, we try to lobby the states to even more put emphasis on indigenous knowledge and indigenous use in the way of conserving nature or preserving nature. So this is one of the big points that we try to convey to the parties or the states that have signed the convention, Russian Federation being one of them. So we try to get indigenous lands, waters and territories should be recognized as a separate land category under spatial planning, and that can contribute to effective conservation outcomes. And that might be work that is already well underway on the Russian Federation, then we could learn more from in the future. So I think that is it for the greetings from Sápmi. I live only 100 kilometers from the Russian border in the west, so on the Norwegian side. Thanks a lot for this opportunity, and all the best for your future discussions.
Спасибо большое, очень интересно.
Thank you very much. It is very interesting, and we are friends with you for quite some time. And we, in this week, we would like to finish the assembly. And if you have suggestions, please contact Vyacheslav Ivanovich Shadrin. So the floor is given to Lena Inne and
beneficiary of the indigenous peoples of Yakutia.
Уважаемые народные депутаты, Елена Христофоровна, сразу перейду к теме своего выступления. Итак, что нужно, чтобы повысить качество жизни и развивать традиционные отрасли коренных малочисленных народов Севера? Прежде всего, гарантия и реализация права на сохранение исконной среды обитания. Это право является крайне важным, при этом оно затрагивает и земельные вопросы, и территории традиционного природопользования, и виды традиционной хозяйственной деятельности, и взаимодействие с недропользователями. Реализуя свои права на землепользование, коренные малочисленные народы Якутии образовали 62 территории традиционного природопользования местного значения с общей площадью более 165 тысяч гектаров, что составляет 53,7% от общей численности республики от общей площади Республики Саха-Якутия. Из общего числа созданных ТТП 58 территорий поставлены в единый государственный реестр недвижимости с присвоением кадастровых номеров зоны с особым режимом использования. Я сразу перейду к постановочным вопросам. Первый момент. Коренные малочисленные народы, объединения малочисленных народов имеют право безвозмездно пользоваться землями различных категорий, то есть на любом виде права без уплаты платежей за использование земель. Однако, согласно действующему федеральному законодательству, предоставление земельных участков, находящихся в государственной или муниципальной собственности, возможно в местах традиционного проживания для размещения зданий, сооружений на срок не более чем 10 лет. То есть предлагается только один вид права – это безвозмездное пользование на ТТП с ограничением срока при наличии объектов капитального строительства. Второй момент. юридические лица обязаны были в срок до 1 июля 2012 года переоформить право постоянного бессрочного пользования на право собственности либо в аренду. Поскольку 81,6% территории республики занято землями лесного фонда, то большинство земельных участков родовых общин расположено в границах земель лесного фонда. Таким образом, при переоформлении права в землях лесного фонда выбор правообладателей безальтернативен, возможно только аренда. Юридически эти лица лишены свободы выбора права, на котором бы хотели в дальнейшем использовать земельный участок. И третий момент. Существует проблема при предоставлении земельного участка, так как в соответствии с действующим федеральным законодательством предоставление прав на земельные участки зависит от организационно-правовой формы юридического лица или законодательно установленных случаев предоставления земельного участка на определенном праве определенному кругу лиц. То есть, иными словами, некоммерческая организация, кочевая родовая община коренных, может безвозмездно пользоваться земельным участком без торгов, но не имеет возможности, в отличие от сельскохозяйственных товаропроизводителей, пользоваться на праве аренды. Поэтому, уважаемые коллеги из Совета Федерации, депутаты Государственной Думы Российской Федерации, Государственного собрания Илтумен, я предлагаю обсудить следующее. Установить для родовых общин льготные размеры арендной платы не только при переоформлении прав, но и при предоставлении новых земельных участков. Для этого необходимо внести изменения в федеральное законодательство в части установления арендной платы. Внести изменения в федеральный закон о введении в действие Земельного кодекса Российской Федерации в части нераспространения на родовые общины обязанностей по переоформлению права постоянного бессрочного пользования. Следующее. Обращаюсь к правительству Республики Саха-Якутия. Реестр территорий традиционного природопользования, традиционной хозяйственной деятельности местного значения ведет Министерство по развитию Арктики и делам народов Севера. Я считаю, что необходимо нам разработать положение о реестре ТТП в электронном формате и порядок его введения, актуализировать объекты учета с полной ревизией первичных документов ТТП местного значения, сделать электронный реестр данных о ТТП с графическим отображением границ территорий. Учитывая тот факт, что в министерстве обращается в месяц не менее поступает 10 запросов от недропользователей, вообще в перспективе следует рассмотреть вопрос.
Я не нажала. The next point, appealing to the deputies of executive bodies in places of traditional activities of indigenous peoples. I recommend to amend the regulation to set the zones of subsoil use, setting their boundaries and the legal status of use of land in such zones. At sites, monitoring such areas, we get the idea that upon the creation of territories of traditional activities, the government doesn't develop it further. It has no points on legal status of such areas. Such areas bodies have transferred their duties to Indigenous Peoples Councils and Management Council. There is very few areas that have agreed with subsoil users. Agreements on the conservation of lands, conditions of presence on areas of traditional economies are not set yet. A few people who come to such areas organize touristic routes. There are no informative stands that tell about the special status of such areas. Inspectors of ecological expertise of the settlement theoretically, there could be a passport of such areas. Since I have few time, I will not stop on the list of the areas of traditional living, like pension and any favorable conditions while creating such areas, and ethnological expertise. If it is made only in areas, we should actualize our list. So colleagues, please, let's work together, and I thank you that we have such a new space thanks to our State Assembly and our own committee. This is a good beginning. I wish all its organizers and participants a fruitful work, and congratulate you once again on the 30 years of our all-Russian organization. Thank you, Elena Stepanovna. For these years, we have done a lot. And working as Deputy Minister, working in with the affairs of Arctic zone. I know that many issues are being solved due to your work. Thank you a lot. The word goes to Yevlovskaya Любовь. Любовь Leonidovna, please. The People's Deputy, Parliament of the Republic, member, People's Deputy, member of the Standing Committee.
Dear friends, dear participants of the forum, so we are working on the preserving of these territories, and these issues are very up to date now, and so since we have a lot of issues related to the river and
Проблемы пожаров за последние годы вызывают.
This is about the pollution of the rivers and stuff, and the second issue is about the wildfires. So we would suggest to look into the acts about the fire safety and about the and we would like to have more staff in the remote areas of the Arctic, and this. So we would also like to talk about the integration of traditional knowledge together with the educational system, and this will lead to the prosperity of the northern people. And there is a monography. The book was written by one of the deputies. It was written by Vasily Robik, and it was published in Russian and English, and it is about the system of education for the peoples of the North. And nowadays we see the connection between the education starting from the school ending with the universities, and we would like to suggest the compensational payments so that these payments would help to preserve the traditions and cultures of the indigenous peoples. And the next issue is about the healthcare. and the healthcare is about again staffing and getting doctors to the Arctic areas, and everything that is pertaining the life in the Arctic is very challenging for the specialists to come and live, and the absence of doctors and medical services in the localities. Of course, the life quality, the quality of life is not achieved to its highest point, and we need to of course speak about the so-called northern payments, and they have to be standardized for the healthcare system, and it's about the regional hospitals, local hospitals, and this would help to the development of the science and to treat the people in the localities, and also the staff should learn to do a lot of different things, and they are not only they are expected not only to be doctors, but also they have to have some other special professions too. So according to the decree of the head of the Republic, there was a strategy developed about the development of the Arctic zone up to 2035, and this state program of the social economic development of the Arctic zone was adopted before this on the Russian level, on the federation level. So in order to have the balanced development of the Arctic regions, I would suggest the following. So in the framework of program that are developed on the state level, I would like to suggest the following programs. So for example, Forest of the Arctic, Rivers of Arctic, Doctors of the Arctic, and Teachers of the Arctic. I hope that these suggestions will be considered, and they will help to improve the quality of life in the Arctic regions. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Lyubov Leonidovna. It is a very interesting suggestion. We would, of course, include in the recommendational part of this forum, and we
the word goes to the author of draft, Anatoly Sleptsov. Good evening, dear participants of the session. I want to pay your attention to 3 moments. The first, Russian Federation government has approved 2 normative acts. This is the standard of resident of the Arctic zone of Russian Federation. And the second is the order of reimbursement of costs to indigenous peoples. We think that these documents are political signal for bad subsoil users, that they in the places of traditional subsoil use, they have to reimburse the losses they bear and take programs of social support of sustainable development aimed at increasement of life quality of northerners. These are new challenges new requirements, and I think that these conditions, in these conditions, use of the Arctic must learn to develop projects of territories development and propose the mining companies. And in new conditions, I think that it's time for us to prepare the staff from indigenous peoples. Today, unfortunately, this targeted preparation of working people is not at the good level. Just an example, in Yakutia, 20 years ago, we prepared on targeted program. We prepared 700 people, representatives of indigenous peoples. We prepared them 25 each zootechnologies of communes, and these guys that we prepared, they contributed to the development of the ancestral communes, municipalities. And now, when there are new challenges that we face, we should go back to the issue of targeted study of stuff, and not only in culture and native language. The thing is that today, as it was said before, the basis of development of the northern people is the economics, the national economics, development of reindeer herding, food processing, because only these industries have shown their longevity in the thousands of years in the Arctic. In this case, we just need to help with support, financial support. It's not a secret that many communes are city basing. And the third moment, we should think about how we can implement the legislative practices of Russian president in the Arctic zone. We know that looking at the text of this law, the subsoil users can become residents of the Arctic zone, which means that we need to see the issue of preparing a new cooperatives of ancestral communes with the residence status of the Arctic zone, and use the favorable conditions that it gives. It is the use that should work in the council to control, to develop the Arctic zone. I propose that there must be use until 35 years old, because it has always been so that the Arctic development is in the hands of the youth, because development needs new technologies, the internet, the IT technologies, and we have such guys. We have to delegate them there for them to help authorities to take right solutions, because they know the problems of their communes, and at the same time they have modern skills. Thank you a lot, Anatoly. You have done a lot for the development of indigenous people's issues. I propose regarding youth, regarding the targeted study, we have held 2 sessions in spring and summer, like a week ago, and the figures that were indicated, students, indigenous peoples have entered the universities. There are 5 and 6 guys from indigenous peoples that want to enter universities. So it's a serious issue. It's a bad indicator. The word goes to Julstan Sidorov, the head of Brylach village of Aldansky region, the active leader, the Council of Communes of Yakutia.
Good afternoon, dear participants of the assembly. Yes. So on behalf of all the indigenous peoples of the North, we would like to congratulate on this 30th anniversary of the Association of the Indigenous Peoples. And I would like to say I would like to say that the law in many subjects of the Russian Federation there are indigenous peoples, and according to the item on 36 of the we need to have some special measures. According to the Constitution of the Russian Federation, we guaranteed the right for the indigenous peoples of the Arctic, and we are bound by all the international laws, and we have a special constitutional status, and it has to be regulated particularly, and we need to have some special rights of the indigenous peoples, and we need to speak about the international standards, and these international standards must be upheld, and the first edition of the laws, we had quota, and we were represented in many levels of the powers. And the main one of the main difficult situation is about we are not the majority in any location, and that's why we cannot be represented well in the legislative powers of in the government or in other so if you speak about the villages here, we don't have indigenous peoples represented in the local authorities in the villages here, and also we don't have enough representatives in the government of the Sakha Republic, and we are not represented in the issues related to the development of the Arctic regions and stuff. So in order to have the balance, I would like to suggest so we need to have the rights of voting and the right of initiative on making the law, legislative rights, and there must be representatives from the indigenous peoples, and so we need to have the right of legislative rights on the locals, like on the villages and other levels of the government, and we need to have representatives in the municipal level as well as in the in other levels as well, and the we have developed the project of the law, and we have sent it to Elena Golomaryova. And the second suggestion is, according to the press services, the head of the Republic and the chairman of Gazprom, so they have signed a decree on the development of the gas industry, and it is up to 2025. And I seen Nikolaev mentioned that this gas industry development, so he mentioned that there are some numbers of villages are included into the gasification of this, and we would like our village Khatastir to be included in that list, so that we so that Khatastir is included in the list, so that Khatastir gets the gas pipeline to the village. And we have worked on the law on about the traditional naming, and the federal law didn't allow us to have. Sorry, and the time is limited, so let's this is about the names of the indigenous people's names, so we have already started working on this, and we hope that it will be positively developed, and the gas pipeline to Khatastir is one of the important questions, and it is very good that you mentioned that. And please send all these letters to accordingly.
And we have discussed this issue with the representative, and I think this issue is very vital and important. Thank you for your awareness, for your activities, that you always raise such important issues. Good job. Thank you. The word goes to Tatiana Sivtsova, a person who since 90s has worked on the adoption of the law on communes and on implementation of this law. More than 20 years is a big term. Please, Tatiana Vasilyevna, what goes to you? Dear participants of today's session, the Deputies Assembly, I congratulate you all on this historic event, the Arctic Forum. And today the issue concerns the life of a person. Man in Arctic is the main thing. For the first time in my life, in my work, Russian Federation, the state, and the international community have become the initiators. The Arctic, the North, really needs the attention for a person to live better in our conditions. First, aside, I am the chief of the Study Center of Arctic. For 15 years, thanks to our government, the first in the Republic, assigned indigenous peoples to the market things, to legislation. Thanks to our assembly, I want to pay your attention. I am also a head of the commune of Verkhnyo-Kolumsky region. Based on Republic laws, more than 20 laws, thanks to the fact that we have legislative base of the Russian Federation, we can implement implemented in regions. I want to pay your attention to that these days the Arctic Forum men in as a host of these lands, this is the issue concerning the land, the area of natural use, national industries. We northern peoples lead our lives there in these lands. The costless use of our territories must last not only for 30 years, for 49 years. I want to pay attention to the tax issues. If industrial companies have their taxes reduced, the economic activity, the host structures need reduced taxes too, and there are too many reports required. In such issue as agricultural producers, we must help people to turn to market conditions, to modern requirements, and it requires support. One of the main issues is air tariffs, aviation. No one commune member can afford himself to come take medicine from the places because it's very expensive. The food issue. Our republic has Yakut.org, headed by Alexeyev Nikolai. He started his work well, but at the sites, the base must be fixed. The representatives of OPT are old bases. It requires modern technology there on sites. Issues of refrigerators, for example, need solving. I want to pay also attention to issue of non-commercial ancestral communes. It requires financial support. If Ministry of Agriculture take us as non-commercial organizations by grant, but state support is required too of such communes that do in for fishing, hunting, and the main thing I want to emphasize health. We don't people usually die before the pension time. 50 years is the time for pensions, as for me. Thank you, Tatiana Vasilyevna. Sorry that we gave you word in the end of our session. I feel that you could tell a lot, but you can give us in written. Augusta, head of commune, the head of elderly.
So, you know, we came to Yakutsk from Moscow, and it was visited. We visited the event that was, and the Republic of Sakha was represented very well in all the events that was dedicated to the celebration of the 30th anniversary of the Association of the Indigenous Peoples. And first of all, I would like. So there is, every village has a program of social economical development. The people's deputies, they should control and monitor all the implementation of all these programs. Otherwise, they don't work on the program. The second program question is about business partnership. There is a law on industrial companies, how to deal with industrial companies who should pay for the damage. And third of all, we need to work with the people themselves, first of all. Otherwise, everything, it's all about theory. And if it, we speak about programs and stuff like that, but if we don't do this, then we are not going to achieve our goals. And so self-employment is very important too. And we need to write grants and get funded for our non-commercial programs. So we have in Iyengra, we have a boy who collects berries, and he does that in order to get money and in order to get a bike. So we need to work on that, and we need to see into these kind of things, and all the deputies should work on that. So thank you very much, Avgusta Dmitrievna. I would like to say, to give the floor to Viktor Gubarev, and we have worked together more than 12 years, and we will. I'm saying thank you to all the participants, and Viktor Nikolaevich, you are welcome to say. So it is a very serious talk, and so in 30 minutes we'll have a plenary session, and this is about the transport, and we are going to take part in that session as well. So I will say a few words, and it is very nice to note that there are a lot of people took part in this session. So it is. I would like to say thanks to Mr. Akimov, and I would like to say thanks to Mr. Shterov and Mr. Borisov and Mrs. Danchikova, who works very closely with all these issues of the Arctic regions. And I would like to just add a few things. So we need to work on federal law, on nomadic way of life, and we have worked together with Elena Galamarova and Nikolai Kharitonov, and there is a group that worked on this law, and we have to pass this law, and we have a great experience on that, and we need to the next moment is about the assembly. We need to consider how the deputies are going to work on the transport accessiveness of the Arctic region, and the children of the Arctic, and the food supply to the Arctic region as well. And of course, all the suggestions will be considered, will be taken into account. We will implement all of them. Dear participants of Assembly, the main suggestions of the members of the Assembly that we will address the Ministry of the Development of the Far East with the suggestion to develop the Arctic regions and to be organizers of the year of the chairmanship of the Russian Federation in the Arctic Council, and we will closely work on based on the experience of the Khanty-Mansi region as well as the Republic of Sakha Yakutia. And this suggestion was also directed to before the Assembly, and in written, and we hope that it will be supported, and we see that we need each other, and we see that the affairs we have, the issues we have, the same issues in every region, and it is really nice to meet together once a year, and we can do a lot, we can make a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking part in this forum, and the recommendations will be developed throughout the week, and the project will be sent to all of you. And unfortunately, we couldn't hear to all the speakers, and the website of Iltumen will contain all the reports, and you can find it there. Thank you. See you next time.
Сейчас поеду туда, будем с октябрьской 3 смотреть пленарное заседание.
Общественную палату не здесь.
Да ну, это мы от госсобрания, да ну. Кто-нибудь что-нибудь скажет. Мы же от госсобрания. Николай Иван Иванович, и вас там надо обязательно.